Hello, my name is Manuel Molano. I am a Mexican economist and I work at IMCO, the Mexican Institute for Competitiveness. We are a think tank that advocates for better public policy in the economic and competitiveness realms so Mexico can become a more competitive nation. Now that Mexico, Canada, and the US are revamping, modernizing, renegotiating the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, it's important to talk about labor issues, labor regulations in Mexico. First of all, I have to say that it is not true that Mexico is an economy where there is no bargaining power on the side of labor. We have very big and very powerful unions in Mexico. The numbers of workers that resolve their salary negotiations each year by methods of a unionized collective bargaining process is around 6%, which is not very different to what happens in the US and in Canada. It's really interesting also that this number of unionized workers has been fairly stable in the three economies. We do think that the labor negotiation mechanism has not yielded as much result in Mexico as free market competitive negotiations. 23 years ago, when NAFTA was enacted, I was a student of economics here in Mexico City. I was barely 18 years old. And at the time, we spoke of salaries in Mexico being a fraction of salaries in the US. In sectors like manufacturing, you would typically find salaries that were convertible to cents of a dollar per day per worker, while in the US it was not unusual to see salaries of $6, $7 an hour. Right now, what we find is that many manufacturing salaries are above the $25 level in the US, and in Mexico we are speaking of around $3 an hour, which is interesting. Mexico has progressed. We've seen higher salary number for manufacturing workers and also in other sectors of the economy, such as construction and services. Where the salary has not increased is in the informal sector of the economy. Many workers in Mexico have to work in the realm of family business, in small businesses, small retail, trade-oriented small businesses, which comprise a large chunk, around 2/3 of the total workers in Mexico. And typically, workers in the informal economy in Mexico make less money than formal workers. The good news is that the pool of formal workers in the Mexican economy has grown at twice the rate of the population growth. That's very important because it means that eventually most workers in Mexico will be formal workers. It's also interesting to note that these workers now have a right to a pension. Now they have some savings for old age and a dwelling, a house, and they pay their taxes, which is something that did not happen in the past. So what should we make of all these union complaints? I think that unions provide a service for certain segments of the labor population in both countries. It's a service of collective bargaining. And I think that US unions have been interested for a while to have desks here in Mexico. I think that should be done, and we really must encourage this kind of exchange. And I do think that that exchange has got to be reciprocal. That is, if the AFL-CIO and the International Brotherhood of Teamsters and other American unions want to have operations in Mexico, it should be fair that Mexican unions could also have operations in the US market. Thanks for listening.